Eric, will you tell us something that you believe about the construction industry right now that might surprise us?
Yeah, what's surprising usually for us is when we get brought in early on projects to design and build out the security and fire protection systems. Our clients usually find it amazing the technology that's out there today. When usually they think of the security and fire protection as a non-lead item, and the systems we're providing and the technology and the solutions that can provide the tenants that we service today is amazing, and we need to do a better job of educating everybody in that field.
Welcome to the source of commercial real estate, where we talk to the experts in non residential commercial real estate so you can grow your business, find a competitive advantage, and use real estate to live the life that you want. I'm your host, Jonathan Hayek. I'm a former public school teacher who found financial freedom through residential real estate investing, and now I invest in commercial properties, particularly small industrial properties. And today we are talking with Eric Benson. He is the CEO of Benson Systems. He's a dynamic leader with a diverse background. He started at the bottom of Benson Systems, so to speak, and he's held nearly every position since the age of 16. Nearly every position in the company, from warehouse worker to field tech to sales, and now he is the CEO of Benson Systems. And I look forward to talking to Eric today about what he's experiencing in the construction world and fire and security. Eric, thank you so much for joining me. How are you today?
I'm doing great, man. Looking forward to it.
Well, thanks for joining me. Why don't we start the conversation with you telling us a little bit more about your background and what your work looks like today?
Yeah, so background is I've been in the family business, like he said, since I was 16, working summers. Um, my father started our business back in 1986. Originally, it was a security and fire protection company. He started out of his garage here, like a mile away from our corporate office today. Kind of an amazing story, very rough upbringing, and built something that my siblings and I all work in today that we've feel genuine love and responsibility for. Um, so we've over the years we've kind of moved into managing a lot of. We have probably a couple thousand customers here in the valley, and we've done all types of things for them over the years. But they've always looked at us as a solution provider. So we've brought in general contractors, we've brought in different developers, we've brought in property managers, and over the years. We've decided to add in a couple other business units. That's why when you bring up our construction company, we also have a restoration company as well. And the idea behind that is just trying to be the full stop when it comes to our customers here in the valley. That says we can build out new suites, we can add on to your suite. With our general contracting company, we want to protect those investments, which most of our clients say it's their biggest investment is their real estate. So the technology and the solutions that I mentioned at the beginning, we've been providing since 1986 on our security and fire protection space. So we're well versed on all the codes that is a requirement to have, and how we get those through AHJ approvals. And then lastly, we started this year as our restoration company, where we're coming out on if they have a fire, flood, and a lot of times it's a sprinkler leak or a plumbing leak that they're calling us first anyways. So we've just added that on recently, and really it's kind of full stop is we want to build out, we want to protect, and we want to restore our customers' facilities.
All right. So it sounds like you have a couple verticals going now, and you've recently added the restoration component. It sounds like Benson Systems started as fire protection and security. And at some point in the last decade, you all saw an opportunity where you said, why stop at fire and security where when our clients have so many more uses that we could potentially fulfill? So can you talk a little bit more about how the security and fire protection business has led into the construction business now?
Yeah, so even early on, as early as the 90s and 2000s, my father, as I was a little young at that point, I was still in school, but he was involved in helping our clients develop all their new spaces. So my dad has been very heavily involved in the construction side of the industry. We didn't have our general contracting hat on at that point, but he was coming in. And again, the goal here and we truly believe this is a value, is the faster we can bring in the actual boots on the ground subcontractors in these developments has been the best jobs that we've been on. And it's not just us saying that; the developers that we've been working with have been saying the same. We can start from the very beginning. So he's been involved very, very early on. And really, honestly, the customers were coming to us saying, why am I using these other companies when I prefer to just go to you and you handle it all? So that's kind of just led us into growing. And again, we have so many customers that we feel like a lot of them are coming to us saying, I don't trust the people I'm talking with, or they don't understand me. I mean, we're getting that a lot too, that there's some that we're going up against the biggest contractors in the state. And what I'm hearing is, oh, well, they have their process, they have their system, take it or leave it approach. And they come to us saying, I don't feel like they're listening to me, and they're treating us just like everyone else. So we kind of come in and we tailor our solutions based on our customers' needs. And that could be different on every single project. So it's just led over time into us just doing more services for our existing customers.
It makes a ton of sense, and I think you're outlining the advantages of being small and nimble, and versus the big guys where they don't have a lot of flexibility, they can't adapt, they've got the processes, and things are set. Whereas you all are a size where you can adapt, and you obviously have these relationships with your customers that you've developed over time, and you can continue to nurture those relationships by meeting their continued needs. Eric, I want to ask you about fire protection specifically, and how challenging it can be for real estate property owners. And specifically, I'm thinking about potentially adding sprinklers to a building. So a lot of real estate people have had dreams of development, or doing an addition, or doing some sort of work on a property, and they go to the city, and the city says, yep, looks great, but you just need to add sprinklers. And then you start to look at the numbers of what it's going to cost to add sprinklers, and it's like an oh my gosh moment. And then the city says, your pipe, your water supply line in the street isn't wide enough, so if you want to do sprinklers, you're going to have to upgrade that pipe, and then the numbers just get astronomical. So can you talk a little bit about some of the challenges that property owners can face when needing to add fire suppression to a building?
Yeah, of course. Just to give you guys an example, we built out a outpatient surgical center here in the Valley, in the West Valley. And what's so interesting, and this is where I feel like most of the frustration comes from, is a lot of the AHJs, authorities having jurisdiction, which is different cities here locally, they all have different opinions. I wish that wasn't the truth, but it is. Like, we went through where we were the GC, and we also were doing the sprinkler work. We helped this company out to rebuild out their space. So it got through permitting, approval, everything. Construction's going. We finish up. And I didn't even know about this until later on, but they came back to me and said at the very final walkthrough, the city came out. They said, oh, you have to upgrade, put in sprinklers. And, oh, by the way, we don't have a line out by the street. So you have to exactly with what you just said. So our customer literally called me and said, what are you talking about? And it kind of looked like it was coming from us. And we're like, we can just go off of what was submitted and what was approved. But the city can kind of do whatever they want. So that is the frustrating part. It really shouldn't be like that, because it's not like the codes change. It's all based on occupancy, what kind of building it is. So again, just like with anything else, the city needs to do a better job, and all their city employees need to be on the same page saying the same thing, because as we hear that all the time, one guy or girl says this, another one says a different one. That's why we have to put on our proposal saying, this is what we believe based on us having all of our NICET certified people in-house. But again, it's all up to the AHJ and what they're going to say. So that's most of the frustrations that we hear. And unfortunately, it gets kind of dumped on us because the customers are looking at us like, hey, you're supposed to be my expert. Why didn't you know about this, or why didn't you expect this? And sometimes it's very tough conversation that we have to have.
Do you have any advice for people who are maybe looking at a project? I was looking at doing an addition to a property that I own, and I had a preliminary conversation with the city, and the sprinkler fire suppression came up, and that's where my example came of the water line on the street isn't wide enough, and so the price tag I got was astronomical to the point that it killed the deal. And to me, it's such a shame that adding a sprinkler system is going to kill a deal for what could be a great project and a really safe one with a sprinkler system. Do you have any suggestions? Are there any workarounds? Are there any other pieces of technology that could take the place of sprinkler systems, or any suggestions for people struggling with this issue?
Again, it's dependent on the occupancy of the building, what type of building it is. That's all different, right? But the general statement is usually kind of the underground part when you're tying into the city. There's not much that you can do. It kind of is what it is. But when you get into the building, there's all types of technology nowadays. Like we're on a project now, big project, of customer here that needed to upgrade their whole entire sprinkler system. Pipes were leaking and they were having problems all over the place. So it was a large project where we're in there having to do a TI as they're working. And this is a facility that's like clean room environment. So very high technical rooms that we're having to go in. And our project manager literally came up with this idea to cut pipe instead of having to replace the whole amount. So what I'm saying is there's all types of different ideas. You need to pick the right partner. There's heads that come out that usually sprinkler pipe is either CPV or steel. Now there's ones that kind of move. So all you have to do is make the connection up top, and then you don't have to cut the same pipe coming down to where the head is located. So there's technology like that out there. So yeah, there is. Obviously, when it's a big price tag, you need to make sure you're getting multiple quotes, hopefully, to make sure that the contractor is giving you a fair price. But that's kind of the truth when it comes to fire protection is nobody really wants to think about it. It's kind of like a nuisance, but obviously we all need it in case the day comes, unfortunately, that if something were to happen. That's about what I have there.
Eric, you all are involved in some pretty significant tenant build-outs and tenant improvement projects, from healthcare projects to car dealerships and education and government buildings. I imagine it is really challenging to be successful in the construction industry right now with interest rates where they are. I don't know how much that impacts you, but I imagine that impacts the people that are paying you, from labor rates and the availability of labor. Can you talk a little bit about what it's like to be in the construction industry right now?
Yeah. So obviously we have our contracting company, we have our security and fire protection. So I get to witness a whole bunch of different examples of this. What I can say is a lot of our bigger deals haven't seemed to slow down, our larger deals, but a lot of our kind of like tenant direct to end user build outs that we're doing, like usually these companies, if they do have a line of credit, it's not big. So they're usually funding them themselves. All of those have had a substantial slowdown. I don't know exactly if it's one thing, multiple things. I know we have this big election tomorrow. Everyone's talking about. So that's definitely slowed it down. But, as everyone already knows, in general, kids aren't getting into the trades as well. So that's a main focus of ours. We just had a 2-hour meeting this morning. And this is where a lot of like the bigger contractors do it very well. They have they're out and about at these school districts trying to educate kids on there's other options out there. So we are trying to get better on trying to bring in that next wave of talent, if you will, because especially over COVID, it seemed to speed up very fast on the amount of value that the what we call leader, foreman, lead guys in the field. They're invaluable. They're probably they are the most important position we have, and it shouldn't be so heavily weighted on those types of people, but that's just the truth. And we have companies just like ourselves. We're all fighting for these guys because customers are looking at us to make sure we maintain the level of service, especially with how all of our costs have been going up these last handful of years with inflation and what happened with COVID and all that. So that would say the main challenge right now is to have enough of those guys or girls in the field that is leading things for us.
A pattern that I hear across industries, not just construction, but in property management and other industries across real estate, is also the entry level position, the unskilled entry level position, people having a really hard time recruiting and keeping those types of people. How's that section of the labor force for you?
It's not bad. I mean, I would say it's that actually hasn't been too bad. And what's interesting, and we're probably not the only one, but most of those positions that we get is somehow referral of an employee that already works for us, whether that's a kid or a cousin or a son, daughter, that also want to, like, we have a bunch of, it's not just my family that's involved in the business. Like, we have probably 3, 4, 5, 6 families at different levels, father, son. So that's most of what we get on these new entry level roles. And at our size and our level, we haven't had a strong issue on filling those roles, at least for us.
Contractors are, well, they can be an easy target for real estate people when things go wrong. Or prices get inflated, or deadlines are missed, or things like that. The contractor is sometimes the first and easiest target, whether that's warranted or not. What do you wish real estate property owners and the tenants that you're working with, what do you wish we would know about what it's like to do large build outs for spaces?
That's a trick question. The easy answer is I can always say, like, it is, construction is a tough industry. That's for sure. And really it's the sub trades underneath that has been hit the hardest, I would say, over these last 5-6 years. I mean, at one point they were having so much work, they couldn't even get proposals or bids from somebody. If you can even understand that, can you imagine, like, someone go, "Oh, I'm too busy right now." That's literally the calls we were getting on some of these subcontractors. So they, instead of being honest with us saying, "Hey, now's not a good time," they would end up submitting a bid to us that we knew was just completely out of left field. So times have changed. Now they're calling us, though, saying, "Hey, do you have any more work? We can get a little aggressive here or there." And that's usually a sign for us that we kind of weed those people out. That's not how we do business. Like, hey, give me a fair price up front and let's build a team together. And there's going to be more work down the line. So we don't usually go to market like that. But it's a struggle all day. I mean, that's why most of the time now we're trying to tell people, hey, if you're not comfortable with this, we can just do cost plus. You know what I mean? We'll give you and provide you everything. Let's agree on a general conditions amount and agreed upon markup, if you will, and move on. And we've had all of our books opened up. So that's happening a lot for us right now. But also, even with that, we get kickback saying, oh, they want to make sure we stay in between their budget that was allotted for this project, right? And sometimes cost plus can't guarantee the developer that. So it scares people a little bit. So I don't know. It's just a conversation that's very fluid, and every customer is a little different. So that's where we find is where we're having most success, is opening up our book, saying, here you go. So we maintain that level of trust with our customers.
Talk more about the idea of cost plus. And from what you're saying, here's what I understand that you could get bids from people, or you could provide bids and say, okay, this build out's going to be $250,000. And they say, oh, no, we want, 200 or 225 or whatever it is. But you say, okay, how about we do this? And cost plus. Will you explain in more detail what cost plus means and the benefits and downsides of that?
Yeah. So the benefit is a cost plus is usually we're trying some line items. It's very tough to get 3 bids, but we're trying to provide 3 proposals up front. And obviously we're putting in the work to tell our customer, hey, we believe this is the best option, right? Sometimes it's not always the price, right? You have to look in the scope. What is this providing? What are they not providing? So it is an exercise that we have to go through, and then we will come in and submit saying, hey, this is what we think. And then we'll say, as the project goes on, part of our payment application, if you will, is we're providing all the backup to our customer, and then and agreeing on a rate for us, which we have our general conditions like any other contractor, and then we agree on a general markup for our overhead and profit, and then we kind of move on. And at least that, from a trust standpoint, is gone. I mean, we're collecting it and then submitting it, so there's nothing that. Like a general one, hey, this project's going to be $1 million or $10 million. There's a lot of things that can be done behind the scenes that developers never know about. That happens, unfortunately, a lot. There's certain buyouts that they do with the subcontractors after the fact. So if they say, hey, the electrical guy is $250,000, usually what would happen, and this is the honesty that needs to happen with developer and contractor, is after they agree and you guys sign on the dotted line, then they're going back to them, hey, if you want this job, you need to give it to me for X. And it's whatever. It's all, and that is a game that is played. And I know firsthand we've had jobs start with one contractor, come to us midway because they found this out. And that is just not a good trust to start. Could you imagine, hey, this is what it is, and then after you sign it, they end up getting better pricing after that? So it's not a good way to do business. We've never done it like that. But there's also some projects where we can't give a price up front. Some of it's like depending on the build out, if it's some unknowns that we can't figure out, that's another reason why we do cost plus. And then we'll say generally there should be a not to exceed, let's say, based on our industry knowledge of whatever, 100 grand or 2 million, that we believe it won't go above, but we cannot get to a point to where we can bid this accurately. So let's just agree on a cost plus, and it'll be better for everyone. And we've had times where we say, hey, this should take, let's say 200,000, ended up taking 100. So there's also times where it's saved money substantially, going to a model that says, hey, let's just agree on a price and we'll bill you as we incur the cost. So we've kind of had all the above. Just to give you an example, we went into the Queen Mary, if you know what that is. It's a ship out in Long Beach. They turned it into a hotel. Quick story, he's actually the president of our construction company now, Adam. That's where we met him, out at the Queen Mary. And anyways, he interviewed probably 5, 6, 7, 8 life safety contractors, and all of them gave him some ginormous bid price to upgrade the whole system. And Adam didn't really like how they were doing that. They thought that we could do some replacements without having to replace the whole thing. But these contractors looked at it as, hey, like, there's a bunch of unknowns. This is our price. Take it or leave it. Well, we came in there saying, we can't really give a price either, but how about we do this? Well, let's agree on a labor rate. Let's agree on a markup on a material that we would have to submit, all the backup from our supply houses. And it ended up turning into an amazing job that all these other contractors said they couldn't do. And after the fact, Adam told them, ended up saving them, like the city of Long Beach, like $2.5 million, because we went in and we were billing time and material, and it was our incentive to come in under his budget. So it worked for both parties. So I guess it just depends on the project.
You can build some serious relationships that way. I am involved in different construction projects, much smaller scale than what you're doing, mostly residential stuff. I'm sitting in one right now, and my preferred contractors that I work with, I do, a version of cost plus. We call it time and materials. And it goes back to a concept that we were talking about earlier in our conversation, just about trust. And I don't do time and materials with just any contractor or the contractor that I'm working with for the first time. They have to earn that because, they could fabricate how long something took or how much materials cost or jack up materials 120%. And you obviously don't want to work with someone, or at least you don't want to do cost plus or time and materials with someone that's going to operate that way. To your point, do you think, the way that you've built your business, you and your dad have built your business over the years of serving your existing clients, building trust, do you think that part has really helped you all get to the ability to do cost plus the way you do?
I'm sure it has a big part to play in it for sure. Um, but even with these there's a lot of projects on our construction company that we've been brought on halfway through. Not sure how or why, but we're kind of looked at as like, hey, come save me, contractor. And we're doing pretty well there. And it's nothing special. It's not like we're special. We just come in and just provide honesty. Um, and that's it. It has a lot to do with it. But that's where we've had our biggest successes. When our customer has the success, usually it's when we have the success. But on the opposite too is when we get told something that isn't true as well from the developer side or the customer side, and we spend all this money and effort, and it ends up being the opposite. That's where we've had to also say like, hey, like we're not a good fit, and we just need to move in a different direction, right? So it's a certain trust level that our customers have given us as well. It's not just like we're giving it to them. They have taken care of us very good as well.
Talk to a commercial real estate investor looking for a contractor to do a build out or a development. What suggestions do you have for people on this side in choosing a contractor, and what questions should they ask? What should they be looking for when they're choosing a contractor for a project?
Well, hopefully this is at a point to where they think this project is going to be viable for a certain budgeted amount. Um, so I think going in up front and trying to give the contractor as much information as you can. Like, hey, this is my budget. We need to make sure we come in under that. Um, some of this is even before that. Like we've in projects that there's already been an architect designing something that's already in full design phase and done, and we get brought out and says, hey, my budget's this, and we look at the plans and it's like, were you guys not talking? Because some of these design documents try double the budget. So I think some of that too is I think they need to look for bringing in a group that they can trust. And that every person brings or plays a part: architect, engineer, contractor. Architects are amazing, engineers are amazing, but they're usually not the people boots on the ground that are actually performing it and looking at saying, are these pathways even making sense? How's the trades going to be working together on these larger projects? So again, I would say, and sometimes it just doesn't work like this, but every time that we as a sub has been brought in the development side, it's usually worked out for everybody. We're in there in the architect engineer meetings, weekly meetings. We're in there with the contractor saying, hey, these plans make sense. And most of the time where we've had the most cost savings is when we brought in our subcontractors. They're looking at the plan saying, why are you putting in this, HVAC unit when you can do this? Or why are you doing it like this when you can do it this way? So again, I would say, if this is a project or a development you want to do, I would say bringing in multiple people up front is going to be your best bang for the buck.
Any suggestions for tapping into that trust factor that we were talking about? So, it's one thing for a contractor to come in with a number or say like, oh, your budget's $1 million. Yep, sure, I could probably do it for $1 million. What about working with someone that you want to work with. And choosing a contractor that's trustworthy, that has integrity, that's going to do what they say they're going to do, that isn't going to pull stuff like we were talking about before. Any suggestions for finding those types of contractors?
It's kind of hard to say that when you don't know somebody, right? So friendships usually aren't built over one conversation.
Sure.
So usually, at least the developers that we've been talking to, they know a lot of people in the valley, right? So they've done a good job of either finding the city member, or they know an architect, and the architect is going to recommend a contractor that they've worked for years. That's how we've gotten a lot of business. Is we have a partner that has been recommending us. So usually it's some sort of referral program with somebody that they know, right? So just like if you came out to my house or whatever and say, hey, I'm a trustworthy guy, I do this, here's my examples. You don't really know me yet, right? No matter what I say. So I would say most of the time it's, hey, let me I'll introduce you to some of our other customers, right? We have customers that we've done business for literally 30 years. Why don't you go talk to them? So I've done that a lot too, saying, hey, I understand you don't know me yet, but if you talk to them, they can show you firsthand what we've been able to do for them over a long period of time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the best contractors that I've worked with have come from a referral. They have a track record. They've got great testimonials from previous clients. And so I think you hit on some great ideas there. Eric, this has been a great conversation. I sincerely appreciate your time today. If listeners want to connect with you, they want to learn more about Benson Systems, where would you like to send people?
Yeah, they either go to our website or LinkedIn. Our website is www.benson-inc, that's inc.com. LinkedIn, Benson Systems, and you'll also find our sister companies under those links as well.
Eric, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
Listeners, if you enjoyed this conversation, reach out to either one of us. We love talking about commercial real estate and construction. So reach out to either one of us. We'd love to connect with you. Thank you so much for listening. We appreciate you. Until next time.